Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. We are saddened to be making this video today about Vader, who passed away on Monday. The word is just getting out today. Vader's son took to Vader's Twitter and basically let the world know that Monday night Vader passed away. Vader was one of the the most for when it comes to big men. Vader changed the way that people looked at big men in the wrestling business. From 1990 to about 1994, Vader wrestled for what you can call the NWA or WCW, and was one of the best big men that there was in the business. He went up against the likes of Ric Flair, Davey Boy Smith, Sting. And, he was the guy who dropped the belt to Ron Simmons, making him the first ever African-American world heavyweight champion in history, which was a big deal for what was going down. Vader main evented a lot of big shows for WCW. He was looked at as one of those big monsters. He was managed by Harley Race at the time. And he wore that huge, humongous mask that, just terrorized kids when he came down to the ring. And, of course, it would shoot smoke out the side. It was used as a form of a weapon during the matches, where he would either just, use it to drop guys into, or he would actually have the mask shoot out the smoke into his opponent's eyes, temporarily, like, dropping him out of there. Vader, was a football player for the University of Colorado, I do believe, before, after his football career ended, getting into wrestling, where he actually became a bigger name in wrestling over in Japan. And when WCW was able to sign him and bring him over, it was actually a really big deal, because he went there, immediately sort of became the champion. They always really like those hard-hitting big guys. Japan just has a love for certain guys to go over there, and that's why Brock Lesnar went over there for a time period after leaving WWF in 2002, and they just loved him. And guys over there like Michael Elgin, these days, that they just love those guys. They've always really gotten over, and they just like those guys that just go out there and just beat the shit out of each other in their matches. When he came in, Vader became the champion. Of course, I think everything changed for Vader. I don't really know where he would have fit in. Of course, everybody knows, if you go and you look up that War Games Team Hulkamania, there's a lot of promotional shots where it was, I believe it was Sting, Hogan, Macho Man, and Vader that were supposed to team up in that War Games against the very, very bad. Didn't they go up against the Dungeon of Doom? And I think that he got replaced by Luger, but I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head right now. But that I think that makes the most sense. Of course, what went down backstage is that Vader, who was always sort of a moody, territorial, guy, one thing led to another, and him and Paul Orndorff got in a fight. Paul Orndorff, who had suffered a stroke, I think he didn't have 100% of the feeling on the left side of his body, was still able to get a shot in on Vader and knocked him out, wearing flip-flops in the locker room. That's the one thing that I know most about the story, more than anything else. And from there, I think that, honestly, if he would have stayed, I think he just would have been humiliated by basically getting knocked out by Paul Orndorff. But he left. He ended up going to WWF, which was a big deal. It was a big signing. I think that, honestly, Vince McMahon could have sort of molded Vader into being the monster that he wanted to be, but instead he fell into the Camp Cornette. He main evented SummerSlam 95, which ended up being him versus Shawn Michaels. But I think that it just ended up being that he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. After he lost that match, a lot of people think that he fell into the clique, wanting to dominate everything in WWF at the time, and he sort of got labeled as a lazy fat piece of shit. That they actually had him call himself that after losing a match on Monday Night Raw, and that sort of like we're molding a new attitude. And even after he did that, I'm not sure if that was before, during, or after when he got arrested for actually going after. I think they were in Iraq during that. Maybe they were in Kuwait, because I remember it being called the Cup of Kuwait, that was won by Ahmed Johnson. He ended up getting arrested, and most people thought it was an angle, but it was a real life deal. He was actually left behind on the tour to, serve out a time in jail before he was actually let go and flown back. He got a little bit of a push after it, because I think it got a little bit of mainstream press, but he never was able to ever really regain it. I'm not sure when he left WWF, it was due to injury or not, but of course he popped up in TNA for a little minute. He popped up coming back to WWE as a part of I think it was supposed to be Coachman versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, and then Stone Cold Steve Austin found out that Coach was actually going to beat him on the pay-per-view, which was going to be like a Taboo Tuesday or something. And so Austin all of a sudden said, hey, I can't do it. And he ended up getting replaced by Batista. But it was Goldust. It was Vader. And there was one more guy who returned. But it ends up that, just bad luck. Vader fell down when he was supposed to be getting out of the ring, and we don't have GIFs like we do now on Twitter and things like that, but it just made the rounds, after the show, and Vader sort of was like a laughingstock, so WWE ended up not re-signing him and putting him on the roster, which was sort of like the deal if he came back and did this, and he just sort of fell out of favor. He ended up coming back and doing some jobs here and there along the way, doing some indie shows. When it came out that he was having heart problems, I think a year or 2 years ago, it boosted his popularity, and then he actually came out and he said some things about, I think, William Ospreay, which led to them having a big match in an indie over in the UK, and that was about it. But I think most people will sort of remember Vader for that WWF run, because that's where they saw him the most. But you guys go back and you watch that vintage WCW stuff, you're gonna fall in love with a big guy. I know that Vader is one of those guys that my buddy Miguel always dreamed to see going into the Hall of Fame. He wanted to have like a special class of like Bam Bam Bigelow, Vader, Yokozuna, because of how much he liked those guys. So it's sad to see this guy go without being able to get his chance to go into the Hall of Fame. A lot of people were thinking that it was going to happen this year at WrestleMania, and it ended up not getting it. So we'll see what goes down if he gets that sort of rub after his death. China didn't get it last year, and most people thought that she was a lock to be getting it, and said it was a Molly Holly that went in this year for the Hall of Fame. So we'll see what goes down. Vader was one of the best guys out there, and I hope many people remember how good he was back in the NWA WCW. Jim, if you're out there, buddy, I want to hear what you think. Hopefully we make a video today.